Hello, everyone. This is Mahlena Ray Johnson with Write Your First Book with Mahlena. Today, we're talking about, but I don't know any of you people, how to diversify your cast of characters in 3 easy steps. So first, as always, we are going to make sure that if you're here and you want to write your first book, then start writing now. Get out your phone and type your notes, or get a pen and a piece of paper or a pencil and a notebook and write your notes down. Or if you're watching this on your computer, please continue watching the video and type all of your ideas that you have in your head in your book. Then second, reintroducing myself. Again, I'm Mahlena Ray Johnson, and I went to Loyola Marymount for my bachelor's degree in film school, and then I went to University of Southern California for my MBA in marketing, entertainment, and entrepreneurship. And I've written 3 books, and I'm working on my 4th one, Love It a Luau. So I'm immensely qualified to help you write your first book. Also, on this particular topic, I am very qualified to help you diversify your cast of characters, because my cast of characters are always diverse, except in the instance of my one screenplay, which is all Black people until we get to the end of the first season, but lots of diversity in my cast of characters. So I want to help you do this as well. All right, so the common complaint is, I don't know any of you people. How am I supposed to make my cast diverse? This is usually a complaint that white writers have, or white people who haven't written anything ever and just complain that they don't know anybody, so therefore all of their stories should just include white people, and then they act like that's not white supremacy. It is. So if you have questions and you are a person who does not fall under that category and is just really concerned and really does want to have a more diverse cast of characters in your book or your script or whatever you happen to be writing, we are going to go over 3 ways to easily diversify your cast of characters. Now, this is something that you should do in the beginning of the planning of your book. So right now, when you have your brainstorming ideas, it's fine not to know exactly who everyone is. That's okay. This is not a step that you necessarily have to take initially. It is something that I do initially because it really helps me figure out exactly who everyone is before I start writing about where all these people are going. So I always start with the main character and the people around her. And then I figure out what happens in the book. So I could have a setting and an event like, let's see, like one of the things that I'm working on for a spinoff of Love It a Luau, spinoff for Love It a Luau is a mayoral election. So that's what's going to happen in the book. Who's going to be in the book? I already know, so I don't have to really worry about that. But if I just pick something completely different, like a trip to Antarctica, okay, before I start writing about all the events of the book that happens because of this trip, I have to start with the main character and the other characters around her, because if I don't know who they are, I don't know what they're going to do. All right, so let's go through the 3 steps. They are: pick a continent, pick a country, pick a name. Boom, done. All right, so first let's start with pick a continent. I will give you an example in a moment. So pick a continent. There are 7 continents: North America, South America, Africa, Europe, and Asia. Don't forget Australia. Don't forget Antarctica. So don't forget Antarctica. Okay, I can count. All right, so there's 7 continents. That means there are, and this does not include Central America and Oceania. So there are actually many areas that you can pick from. For now, we're just going to stick with the 7 continents and their associated countries. There's also the Caribbean, which doesn't fall under a continent, but it does fall under the northern and western hemisphere. So for your main character, start by picking a continent that she is from. So to make things really simple, you could pick your person to be from Antarctica, and there's no countries there or real cities. Maybe there is one city, like I'm sure there's little towns, but that really makes it simple because only certain types of people go to Antarctica. Not meaning like color-wise, but people from certain backgrounds go to Antarctica. So that would make it simple. To make it more complex, I will tell you what I did with one of my books, the book that I'm actually working on for Love It a Luau. So for Love It a Luau, I already had these characters picked, and the characters that are referenced by the people in the book, the people being Casey and Swan. So Love It a Luau is a story about a refugee suffering from PTSD who is scared to fall in love with a single dad. Her name's Casey. She is from North America, and she grew up specifically in the United States, in Southern California, and she happens to be Chicana. And the people that she references that she used to work with before her refugee status, where she had to escape from her previous town that she lived in, they all came from different parts of the world. So Casey is from North America. Her friend Swan grew up in Nigeria, which is in Africa. So that's two. Declan came from South America, specifically Brazil. That's where he grew up, but his grandparents are in Argentina. Sinjin came from all over Europe because his parents worked for the UN. Moro grew up in Africa because he was adopted by a family in Egypt. That's 5. It's another South American is Luz, whose family is from Colombia, and we learn more about her later. And then Noah, that's 7, 8. There's 8. Noah grew up in Hawaii, which I guess is part of North America by proxy of being the United States. And then she grew up in California as well. And then there's the 8th person, Klaus, who also grew up in in Europe, and he is from Germany. So the only one that doesn't have any representation is Australia and Asia. So that's 2. Oh, and Antarctica too. Okay, so I just picked continents because I wanted them to be representative of people who had international experience, whether working in different places or living in different places. And that was really intentional because they had to, the idea is that Casey's former coworkers and friends and family, they had to work all over the world in Brazil, Russia, India, and China. So their backgrounds put together gave them a better idea of what they would be encountering in these new places that they would be working in. So pick a continent. All right. Second, pick a country. So you picked your continent. Let's say it is South America. We'll go with that one. Pick a country in South America. Now, you don't have to know a bunch about every country. There are over 150 countries in the world, and that number is growing every year. So you can do the minimalist amount of research on a country. I was lucky enough that when I picked these countries, that each of these people was from, specifically in Declan's case, he grew up in Brazil, his family's from Argentina. I had actually been to each of those countries. But for example, with Luz, whose family is from Colombia and she grew up there, I haven't been to Colombia. That's okay. I didn't purport to say, and this is why she is Colombian, and here is her entire heritage. And no, it was just, she was also a mathematician. So I know about math. I know about being feeling like you know about math and not a lot of other people do, and it's not really encouraged in girls. So that's how I formed her personality. Just because you don't know a lot about this person's entire historical background doesn't mean that you shouldn't include them in your story. So pick a country, learn a little about it, and go with it. That's going to be where your character is from. They don't necessarily have to live in that country or still or have huge ties to that country. Luz does. But saying that someone is, you know, not everybody has to be from Orlando, Florida. Not everybody has to be from New York City. Lots of people do not live in New York City, and that's fine. All right, third, pick a name. Yeah, you can pick any name you want because people move around, people watch TV, people watch movies. Names come from come from everywhere. You could name your character John, even if your character is a lady, and no one would blink an eye because there's so many Johns in the world. There are more Johns that are CEOs of Fortune 500 companies than there are women total who are CEOs of Fortune 500 companies. So this name doesn't matter as much as you think it might. You don't have to pick a South American name for your South American character. You don't have to pick necessarily a Nigerian name for your Nigerian character. In my instance, for Swan, I wanted to name her Swan because, you know, it's a nice bird. Her last name is Tutuola, which is a Nigerian name. I actually named her after Ice-T's character on Law & Order SVU because I like his character and I thought it fit. Also, just because he has the last name Tutuola doesn't mean that everything about him has to be informed by his Nigerian heritage. Most of his character is informed by the fact that he was a deadbeat dad and now he's reconnecting with his gay son who is with his husband and they're having a kid. So that's most of his character. Just because you don't necessarily know everything about the country and everything about all the country's names doesn't mean that you can still include people whose country you haven't been to. Okay, the other thing that you can do is the minimal research on that country's name. So what I actually did for multiple characters in other stories as well is look at the country and find out what the top names were in that country for a particular year. I actually do that with the United States as well because there's a lot more information on names from years to comb through. And I also picked last names that way for particular people in the United States as well as from other countries. So let's see. For instance, I picked, what is something else for instance I picked? Oh, for instance, Sinjin. I knew that Sinjin is a particularly British name, and I forgot what his last name is, but I knew that I wanted it to be a very British name, and that he can still, even though his lineage is British, he can speak lots of different languages, all of the UN languages, because again, his parents worked at the UN. So you can either do the research on the country, find a name that is particular to that country, or just pick a name and go with it and let that inform your character. So to recap, pick a continent, pick a country, pick a name, boom, done. That is an easy way to diversify your cast of characters so you don't have to feel uncomfortable about saying, well, I don't know any of you people. Do some simple work and you will have a cast of characters that you can start with and see the world as it actually is, which is made up of lots of different types of people from lots of different types of places. Okay, so if you have any questions about that, please email me at writeyourfirstbookwithmahlena@gmail.com. Again, that is writeyourfirstbookwithmahlena@gmail.com. If you have any questions or you'd like to get started writing right now, please email me as well. You can also leave me a comment or PM me. Thank you so much for watching. Bye-bye.